Hey there, friends. What's up? Kevin here from the MSOTD Rocks YouTube channel, and today I'm taking a look at figuring out if I like Hyro the Hero. Yeah, we're doing Hyro the Hero. Before we get started though, please follow MSOTD Rocks on places like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You'll get the 30-second Song of the Day feature on all those platforms to get to know with bands that are upcoming, emerging in the rock and metal scene today, and some of the heavy hitters as well. Expand your musical horizons. And on all those platforms, we connect with you, talk with you, comment on your stuff, and we just want to connect with you, get to know more about you, and know more about why you like music. Every single Tuesday on our Instagram page, we have an IGT video, which is a behind-the-scenes look at what's happening here. Sometimes I rant about music elitists, metal elitists, and rock elitists, dang you. And every single Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central, we go live on Instagram, and we chit-chat, hang out, whatever happens, happens. Come and join us. Please also subscribe to this YouTube channel because not only do you get these Kevin Figures Out videos, you also get our album reviews like the one I did on Diamante last week. We also have other videos about emerging bands in the scene today, different top 10 lists, and of course the year-end awards at the end of each year. And this is also where the Chord Progression podcast lives. It is our very own podcast. We're interviewing the upcoming emerging band scenes and some of them that have already been up top and are really starting to make a name for themselves in the grand scheme of things. We've had interviews with Joey from Varsity, Diamante from Ashton, Modern Day Escape, Kingdom Collapse, Strange Angels, Another Day Dawns, Saul, and even more. And we talk to them like we're sitting out, hanging out, drinking a couple of beers, shooting the shit, and talking about music. You'll enjoy it. You can watch all those interviews right here on YouTube, or you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeart Radio. Link description below for everything, so like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your crazy neighbors. Now let's go. Let's go! So why am I doing Hyro the Hero as a figure out video? Well, when you take a look at Hyro the Hero, yes, he definitely has a hip hop and rap base to it. And when you take a look at rock and metal in the world today, they're definitely second fiddle, especially in the United States, to other genres such as hip hop and rap, pop music, and depending upon where you live in the country music. But taking a look at how he includes some of those rock and metal influences in there, you're seeing certain other things happen with his music to really connect him with the rock and metal scene, and he could very well potentially become one of those hip hop artists that really work well in the rock and metal scene that you see at festivals all the time that rock and metal fans love, along with artists like Cypress Hill, Tech Nine, and the Wu-Tang Clan. Plus, when it comes to other rock and metal vocalists featured with Hyro, he has done a number of different songs with other artists, which we will talk about, like Brandon Saller of Betray You, David Draymond of Disturbed, Chad Gray of Hell Yeah and Mudvayne, one of my favorite Spencer Charles from Ice Nine Kills, and he's also been featured on other albums as well that weren't his singles, such as Fozzy and Hollywood Undead. And when it comes down to it, you know me, I'm not the biggest fan of hip hop and rap because I just don't like how the electronic instrumentation on that and the heavy produced style really works for me, as I like the raw, more hard rock and metal approach. However, when bands do influence a lot of hip hop and rap into their stuff with the rock and metal approach, there's times I really do like it. Take a look at Fashionably Late Style Falling in Reverse, Evil Ronnie Radke did on the Trilogy. Take a look at From Ashes to New, especially on the Panic album. Take a look at Linkin Park from Hybrid Theory and Meteora. And of course, take a look at Hollywood Undead, one of my favorite bands of all time. So this is going to be interesting going into. How am I going to do this? First, we're taking a look at the music. We're going to go through his solo album, or we're going to go through the singles as well to really figure out if I like the music or not. Then we take a look at his image, his gimmicks, see how he looks, see his music videos, see how he performs on stage, and really figure out from there. And then we're going to take a look at how he interacts with the community of fans, see if that's something I can really get into, and then we're going to tie it all together and give you a verdict. So now, let's roll. All right, if we're going to start listening to this stuff, let me grab these headphones because that'd be a good idea. Let's start. Okay, let's talk. So now we're going to start out by taking a look at Flag Channel, his 2018 album, which is the first. Whoa, hold up, Kevin. What about Birth, School, Work, Death that came out back in like 2011? Well, you take a look at Spotify, you look at Hyro the Hero, it's not under that. It is under Hyro the Hero. So I'm really taking a look at only what's under Hyro the Hero on this instance. So, yeah. That's how we're doing it. So when I jumped in the album, trying to get a hold of Hyro style, especially from an instrumental standpoint, yes, you're definitely gonna have a lot more of that electronic and more modern backing behind there because it's gonna influence a lot of the hip hop and rap that's going to go on this album. But with the bass and core being very heavy in rock and metal as well, Now I'm starting to see some of the connection here, especially because when you listen to some of these tracks, there is a much deeper bass line, and that deeper bass line is going to connect the hip hop and rap styles with the hard rock and metal style as well. Plus, you know me, I love the more harder, more rocky, or more metal style because it has this more raw, visceral tone. And when it's mixed in well with that electronic instrumentation and the more modern influence from hip hop and rap, that's something I can get behind. It did fluctuate in terms of its overall, was it more prominent on the modern influences, the electronic influences, was it more prominent with the rock and metal style, was it more prominent with the hip hop style? Again, it fluctuated, but when he had a perfect balance, I really liked it. And then when the balance was a little bit off, again, it all varied. Now take a look at Hyro's vocals, and I wasn't necessarily sure I was going to get on this one, but after listening to it, the thing I was really picking up on was he must have a heavy influence with Rage Against the Machine because his vocal style and his flow really reminded me a lot of Zach De La Rocha from Rage Against the Machine. And this does work out well because, again, we're getting a style that we know and has worked out with a lot of rock and metal fans from Rage Against the Machine, but also brings a lot of anger, a lot of ferocity, a lot of energy with that kind of style. Very similar to Jason Allen Bettler from Fever 333, as well as more of a modern take on it. So this is something I can totally understand and get behind. However, it's going to depend upon as well because, to be honest, when it comes to Rage Against the Machine, I'm not all in on Zach's vocals. When it comes to Fever 333, I'm not all in on Jason Allen Butler's vocal style. So Hyro's might be the same way as well. Where when it comes to rock and metal that has more of that hip-hop infusion, taking a look at what Ronnie Radke did with Falling in Reverse on some of these, and what Hollywood Undead is really good at, they bring out the more cocky style of those vocals, which I do really like. However, this does a lot for that time as well. So then I have seen some more of that straight, angry, hard, forward style on stuff like from Ashes to New, and then from Linkin Park, especially when you get Chester's screaming vocals in the back. So let's jump into some songs and let's see what happened. So what really worked for me on this album, and it was when the songs really took that heavier hard rock and metal core, the instrumentals, really put them more at the forefront and let Hyro really rap over that with that Rage Against the Machine, angry, more forceful kind of style rapping. That's where I liked it. Here are some examples. Starting out with Bullet, on this song, it did have more of this new metal flow to it. Then on the heavier instrumentation with a slightly higher pitched guitar, it kind of created this more energetic track. But Hyro's Rage Against the Machine style vocals absolutely kill it because we got that heady connection there that we know is very well done, and it just hits very well here. Very similar to like a Fever 333 track, but again, it's the ferocity behind it that really works well with the raw instrumentation. Taking a look at We Ain't Afraid, man, they took this heavy bass line and matched it with this like classic rock and roll higher pitched guitar, which was rather interesting. And Hyro's vocals going higher pitch with the underlying bass shows us this great contrast through and through. And the angry melodic chorus stands out so well with the great power following that higher guitar pitch and the synth distortion on the pre-chorus. And it has that rage, energy, and anger, but the contrast in the instrumentals is really what stands out here to bring all these to the forefront. Let the Snake Show had this like weirder high distortion intro, but then really went into more of this classic melodic heavy metal style track, which I did enjoy. The vocals from Hyro kind of going higher pitch with the underlying bass, it did show a great contrast between the two, and the angry melodic chorus stands out so well with the great power following that higher guitar and synth distortion on the pre-chorus. Again, bringing that rage energy once again with the contrast of the instrumentals behind it. These are the types of songs that when I listen to Hyro the Hero as a Flag Channel album, this is what I really liked. So what did work out for me on this album? Well, when I take a look at the instrumentals, especially when they had that more electronic, more modern kind of influence behind them, there were times where I thought either messed with the flow or the high distortion really started drawing out some of these parts on these songs, and it really made it hard for me to really get into them. Take a look at a song like Live Your Fucking Life, where it has this high crank pitch style sound in the pre-chorus that kind of distracts you, but then when you get to the chorus, it really ends up becoming more of this takeaway from the angry and cocky rap vocals that Hyro has. I do like his vocal sound because it does work out well, but that high cranky distortion sound that's just very prevalent on the song really takes away from a lot of it. Sick of It All did have a heavier focus on the high-pitched electronic backing, ended up taking away from some of the lighter, more melodic vocals that Hyro the Hero had in his raps on this one. But the pre-chorus build-up with the heavier drumming, the faster vocals that took us in that melodic instrumental chorus with the chanting vocals was something that I really liked in this track. So even with the stuff I don't like, there's kind of stuff I do like at times. There were also times where the vocals felt a little bit off and kind of off-putting to me that really messed with the song a couple of times. Devil in Disguise has this great influx of heavier cranky distortion on the guitars to create this higher pitch industrial metal sound, which I'm like, oh man, this is really freaking cool. But then with the higher pitched style vocals from the chorus, they just don't contrast well against what the instrumentals are doing, and it kind of takes away from some of that power. Again, it could be based all on that electronic distortion, but for me, I'm pulling back a little bit. But in the end, when it comes down to Flag Channel, when I take a look at some of the bands I've done in the past, take a look at Era, which was the last one I did. I fell in love with their first album, Impulse, right off this. With Hyro the Hero though, I'm a little bit more off-put on this one than I was with Era, but then again, that's in by comparison. When it comes to Flag Channel though, there are a lot of things I do like about it where the bass in that hard rock and heavy metal instrumentation really does work out well, and when the electronic, more modern styles of hip-hop are kind of influxed in there, it does make a cool move when it's more on the rock and metal sense. Again, this is for me personally. Hyro the Hero's vocals kind of having that Zach De La Rocha, Jason Allen Butler kind of style flow with that anger. Again, it does work out well at times, really working well with a deeper bass line and connect everything together, but there are times where it just doesn't necessarily connect well with me when the mix is off, when there are things that are getting distracted by that high cranking style influence, or when those vocals just don't necessarily flow very well. There's kind of some problems here in my opinion, but overall this isn't something where I'm going to be like, oh, you put on Hyro the Hero, oh, turn it off. If someone's like, hey, you want to listen to Hyro the Hero, I'm just going to say, yeah, put it on, spin it. But then there are also the singles as well that Hyro has with other artists featured on there, and when I listened to them, man, there were times where I thought they really hit, and there were times where I thought, man, you really missed, in my opinion at least. So let's start with the misses. Let's start with Pit Trap featuring Concrete Dream. The reason I kind of pulled back on this one was because Hyro's more cocky vocal style worked well with the electronic backing, and it has a Hollywood Undead feel to it, which I'm like, man, this is how the flow goes. I really do enjoy this. But the transition into the chorus is very abrupt and unnatural, going for more of this heavier melodic metal style. This is the transition that really takes me out of this one. Follow Me featuring Twisted was probably my least favorite overall because it starts to get with that high cranking distortion sound, which I'm like, oh man, it's kind of rather distracting. But then it starts out the chorus and it has this weird like Eminem feel to it, but like Eminem earlier on with more of that like childish kind of cocky style. But just the way that it's done and the way the vocals are melodicized in that one, I'm just like, I am really passing on this very hard. It just doesn't work out well. The flow is just off-putting. The verses do have a faster pace, yet cockier kind of style to them, and I do like them. However, they contrast against the melodic backing not very well because the lighter bell sound that is on there is so overpowering that this song kind of becomes a mess in my opinion. When it comes to Hyro the Hero, Follow Me featuring Twisted is probably my least favorite song of his. But what about the singles that I like? We started with We Believe featuring David Draymond, Disturbed. While the breakdown was going with more melodic feel, felt a little misplaced to me. That was the only thing I felt off about this song because I'm like, everything else was really dang good. The vocal construction with the heavier Rage Against the Machine style in the verses put that anger out in front for you for the song. But then the melodic rock style, metal style vocals that Hyro actually sang in the chorus really flowed well into that powerful second half of the chorus with David Draymond in there. I love the transition from the rap style that he has in the verses to the more singing style in the chorus. The only time he really ever does this, and I thought it was a great move. Another one is Fight featuring Chad Gray of Mudvayne. While the first half of the verse in my mind are kind of weak with a softer tone and more melodic pacing after a heavier and faster intro, the quicker vocals in the second verse, specifically from Hyro, work so well with building the faster paced guitar that's over it. Now we're getting that amped up feel that I love going about this song. But then you get the pre-chorus vocals from Chad and they go really heavy and hard here, and I thought that was the right move overall. They build the anticipation going forward into a chanting chorus reminiscent of Fight Song by Marilyn Manson. It's just a great energy transfer, and Chad Gray really drives that with Hyro's vocals really starting it out and then the chorus really hitting it home. Then there's also Retaliation Generation featuring Spencer Charnas of Ice Nine Kills. The first time I heard this, I wanted to back off from this because I thought Spencer was heavily underutilized, much like he was on the Heart of a Champion remake by Hollywood Undead. But of course, I'm glad I listened to it again. However, the song does a really great job when it comes to the more heavier, slightly melodic 3-3-3 style that fits very well with the heaviness of Hyro's vocals throughout all this. But then when Spencer comes in the bridge going more melodic, he has a great energy flow, again, that more melodic backing, and the breakdown having a heavier building anthemic rock feel with his unclean vocals really leading us into it. We get the more full breakdown and it actually worked really well. Again, I'm glad I went back to this one because the energy flow was really there. So in the end, when it comes down to singles, did I like them? And again, it depends on the singles, but for the most part, I did. When he ended up going with more of that heavier hard rock style, again, looking what we did with David Draymond and going with that heavier, more melodic hard rock style, and let David Draymond's vocals really shine in the chorus, but the energy flow to it worked so dang well. Chad Gray with their song, my God, just how that energy build is going is great from the heavier, faster pace verse, second half of the verses, to Chad Gray's pre-chorus, really amped up, then the chorus just really fits in. And I really like the energy flow on Retaliation Generation. Of course, the song with Twisted Man, I was not a fan of that one at all. So it all depends upon really what you're doing and how it is portrayed, again, with how I look at it. So overall, when it comes to Hyro the Hero's music, where am I looking at this? I'm going to go in a little bit more neutral on this one due to the fact that there are songs that I like, there's songs that I'm not really that into, but if I'm going to go neutral and lean a different way, I'm going to lean a little bit more towards yes, because when Hyro puts in that heavier hard rock and metal core to the music, not metal core, but metal bass, metal core, I really think it's a great job. And then he puts in some different like electronic and modern influences with his more Zack De La Rocha, Jason Allen Butler, similar style of rap styles. Again, that anger is really brought out there. It really does work out well. There's times when it does, there's times when it does. But again, I look at it and think, if someone puts on Hyro's music and says, hey man, should I change the channel? I'm going to say, no. Puts on their speakers, hey man, you want me to put on something else? I'm going to be like, nah man, I'm good with Hyro. Roll it. So now we're on to section 2 where I'm taking a look at Hyro's image and his gimmick. This is going to be taking a look at 3 things. One is what he looks like, how he presents himself, and does that image really work well? Second is, what do the music videos look like? How do they portray themselves? And then third, of course, gotta look at the live show, see how that takes off. But I can't be the live show right now, so won't be able to see Hyro till July at Rockfest. So I gotta go to the music videos on YouTube of live shows and we'll see what happens. So scouring social media to see what the guy looks like, and the dude looks like a guy that should be playing in the NFL. I mean, honestly, I took a look at him. Hyro literally looks like he should be catching passes from Tom Brady taking Antonio Brown's contract spot right now. This is what I thought of him. But when I take a look at his overall style as well, what it reminded me of was something, especially with more of that hip hop and rap of the late 90s and earlier 2000s, where it wasn't necessarily as flashy as it was today, especially with more of the colors, more of the crazier schemes, but it was more straightforward, head on. And the difference where I'm seeing with a more modern twist on it is the fact that I take a look at like late 90s, early 2000s style hip hop culture. The clothes were really, really baggy, and I'm seeing Hyro going with more of that, classic fit, more comfortable fit. So we are getting a little bit more of that gruffier kind of front that really works well with both the rock and metal scene, but also really works well with the hip hop scene as well. Plus, there's a lot of times where I see Hyro without a shirt on too, and that just really does connect well as well because, hey, we see guys on rock and metal stages and on hip hop stages and rap stages with their shirts off all the time. This just fits. But overall, when I think about his image and his style, it does fit in rather well with the rock and metal crowd because it is straightforward, it is up front. When you take a look at rock and metal, most people are either very straightforward and up front or they have a huge gimmick to go off of. But usually with that gimmick, it does invoke, darker tones, darker themes. Think about Slipknot with the mask, Motionless White, the heavy gothic style, Manson again, the heavy gothic style, Ice Nine Kills, the whole horror gimmick as well. But with Hyro, again, you're going to get something that you're going to feel a little bit more raw, you're going to feel a little more rough around the edges, very upfront and brash with that look. And I'm thinking, you know what? This actually really works well with the rock and metal crowd that I'm a part of. So I'm like, yeah. So when it came to music videos, I got a mixture of like the classic hard rock, heavy metal style, classic hip hop and rap style, but also with a heavy influence of like Fever 333 and Rage Against the Machine style videos. So I'm like, okay, we're definitely seeing a lot here with Hyro's influences, but how do they present themselves when you actually look at the music videos? So taking a look at his solo stuff, let's take a look at Live Your Fucking Life because it has the imagery on this one with some of the modern color animation distortions behind it, but it also has more of this angrier style to it, and the movements are like something we saw more with rap from the late 90s, early 2000s. Again, the energy and the vibe really fit with the rock and metal side of it, but the imagery really works well with more of the hip hop side of it as well, so we're starting to see that blend really work well here. Taking a look at the Fever 333 and Rage Against the Machine inspiration, I gotta look right to Bullet on this one. The black and white color scheme, the more rapid yet rigid movements from Hyro, and the overall flow of the music video makes me feel like we're watching something that Fever 333 could have made as well. But no, this is Hyro, and this is definitely straight Hyro. I'm a fan of this right here. And his collab with Chad Gray and David Draymond, we do get these darker tones to the overall style of the music video when you look at the color scheme of it. And again, it does work out really well too because these songs have more of that rock and metal bass to them. Now you look at rock and metal videos, very rarely are they going to be super duper bright. They're going to have more of this gringier, darker kind of tone to them, especially with the color palette, and it did work out here. So when it came to music videos, I mean, Hyro pretty much has it down to a science on what he's trying to evoke, what kind of message he's trying to put out there, and how he wants to present it in terms of the hip hop and rap inspirations, the hard rock and metal inspirations, the Fever 333 Rage Against the Machine sound inspirations, and whatever guests he has on the song. So I'm like, yeah, this dude gets it. These are videos that I could definitely just sit and watch for a long time and be like, yeah. But what about live performances? And of course, I take a look at videos for these. When I watch videos of Hyro the Hero performing live, One thing I saw was a lot of movement, a lot of energy, and a lot of erratic kind of style movements. I'm like, you know what? This is definitely something we can get down with, because especially with rock and metal, I love the bands that are just up there playing without much behind them, and looking at Hyro's set, and there's not much going on behind them. There's the band, there's not much flashy gimmicks that are going on stage. So we're definitely going to get all the energy from him and the band. And they're moving around, they're always moving around, they're always really energetic. Again, very reminiscent of like Fever 333 on stage, so I can really get down with this. The one thing that concerned me though was when I was watching the music videos, the crowd was kind of standing around, whether it was at Welcome to Rockville, whether it was at, or was it Epicenter? One of the two. I think it was Epicenter actually. Or whether it was at his album release show back in 2018, or whether it was at some other random shows like Shiprocked. The crowd was rather stagnant. I'm kind of like, for a guy that's bringing that much energy, for the crowd to be stagnant, is it just the where it is? Is it just the location? Or is this just the way that the crowd kind of goes? We're just watching Hyro go crazy on there. I'm like, this could really induce a mosh pit. I hope it happens. But that's when I saw a video of him performing Bullet at Disrupt Fest in Florida. It's the point where Hyro got off stage, went into the crowd, was getting ready for the bridge, singing it, and then when the breakdown hit, he threw the mic down and got in the mosh pit with everybody and was pushing people around shirtless as always. At that point, I'm like, you know what? This is awesome, because the fact that the frontman, Hyro the Hero, could just jump into this, go absolutely bananas, and have a great time with it. Man, I want to be in one of his shows. I want to be in one of his mosh pits, because I want to see this happen. And hell, if I took a heavy lick, just like, get knocked in, get knocked down, I get a bloody face from Hyro the Hero, you know me, I'm going to be like, let's do it again. So when it comes down to his overall image, do I like it? And the answer is, yeah, this guy's got a great image that I can really get into. The way he presents himself, yes, you do have that mix of hip-hop and rap with the rock and roll stuff. I love the energy behind it. But the thing that clinched for me was when I saw that video of him jumping in the mosh pit and going ape crazy. I want to be in that mosh pit with him. So now it's time to take a look at how Hyro connects to community fans and see if that's something I could really get into. Of course, I got to go to social media for this. Taking a look at Facebook, he's got about 33,000 followers. Twitter, just under 6,000. And on Instagram, just over 19,000. The biggest thing that concerned me though was when you look at the bulk posts on these, they are the same. And I'm not talking about the media being the same. I looked at a couple of these and the captions are the exact same. Now that makes me concerned, because are you kind of mailing in at this point due to the fact that I'm seeing the same three things exactly on all three of these platforms at times? I mean, hell, I could get by just by following you on one if that's the case. But of course, I got to go a little bit deeper than that. And to be fair, Instagram does have some more unique content on it than Facebook and Twitter do. So I will give him that, but when I go deeper, I got to look at how he interacts with everybody. So taking a look at the interaction on Facebook, and his interaction is pretty much non-existent. I took a look at the comment section. There are not that many comments that are there, and there is never really any response from Hyro. Of course, my gold standard for this is Joey from Varsity, who's always connecting with people. And on this end, when it comes to the gold standard, man, Hyro's really low on this. When it comes to Twitter, it's a little bit better, but not that much, because when Hyro's responding to stuff, I took a look at his tweets and responses. The responses, he's kind of retweeting a bunch of like publication stuff or the kind of emoji stuff in there. Very rarely is he interacting with people on Twitter from what I saw. So there is a little bit more there, but it's not as much as Facebook. So I'm like, this is definitely kind of on the low one, where I'm like, oh boy, you're really not connected with your fans there, buddy. But then of course I went to Instagram, and that was a little bit different. Looking at Instagram though, I looked at the comment section, and Hyro's a pretty big consistent commenter back on Instagram. And it's the kind of comments that I like to see as well, where it's not going to be the same copy and paste kind of stuff. It's, I'm seeing difference, I'm seeing different answers, either straightforward, or he's just having fun with it. He's having a good time, he's just hanging out, just being more of himself. And I can really get behind this as well, due to the fact that it feels like I'm actually talking to him. It feels like I'm actually connecting with him. And I can see why this is a bigger plus for him, and I can see why Instagram is, again, right now his second biggest platform, but should be his biggest due to how this works. It's a lot better to see from him. However, the dude also has a Twitch channel, so I gotta go look at that. So when it comes to Hyro's Twitch channel, I've seen a couple of different things. I've seen him play video games with kids, I've seen him ask different fans certain things, talk with them, and I've seen him do live stream shows as well, including showing up at the Hollywood Undead house party and performing Come Through Your Stereo with them as well. And I looked at this, I'm like, okay, now we're seeing a more accessible side of Hyro. He's definitely connecting with the fans in the forefront, and it's getting more of a face-to-face interaction over the past year that we lost out due to the pandemic. But really taking a look at this, again with Twitch, it does make a lot of sense, and I do like the move from Hyro. And even after this, I kind of started liking Coming Through Your Stereo a little bit more after going through this as well, seeing how he did it, because you guys know me, I was not a big fan of New Empire Volume 2 at all. starting to like Come Through Stereo a little bit more after this. So when it comes down to his community fans and how he interacts with them, it is something I can really get into. I'm going to go with neutral, lean a little bit more towards yes, because I'm seeing him do very well on Instagram, kind of like with that Joey from Varsity Standard, but Twitter and Facebook definitely not where I'm seeing that. So I'm like, you know what, if I'm going to follow him, I definitely want to follow him on Instagram. But the Twitch thing is really what kind of makes me lean towards yes, because he is interacting with the fans a lot more on there as well. So yeah, I'm starting to see it a lot more. So now time for the overall verdict. On the music, I was neutral. On his image, I was all in for it. On his community fans, how he connects with them, I was neutral towards yes on it. So when it comes down to Hyro the Hero, what's my final verdict on if I like him or not? And the answer is, I'm like a positive neutral on this, to the point where I'm not all in on him. I'm not the biggest fan of him. But again, I will enjoy his music and I will listen to it from time to time as well. The fact that he's infusing hip-hop and rap into the hard rock metal style, especially bringing some more of that Rage Against the Machine, Fever 3 style, just anger to the whole entire thing, and that ferocity to it with his vocals, I do really like that as well. I like seeing him connect and collaborate with other vocals rock and metal like he did with Spencer Charnas, David Draymond, and Chad Gray. I think that's really where he shines brightest, especially showing off some of those more hard rock and metal styles along with his vocals as well. So I'm really enjoying this. The image and the gimmick is perfect for this, especially when I saw him jump into the crowd and go all mosh pit on everybody. I was a big fan. The community fans, how he interacts with them, I think he could do a little bit better. Again, using Joy Barea as the gold standard on this one. But in the end, I mean, see what he does on Instagram and Twitch, that does make me lean a little bit more towards yes. So when it comes down to it, I think about this. If someone says, hey man, you want to go see Hyro the Hero play live? I'm going to say, yeah, I'll go, get me a ticket, or I'll buy a ticket on my own, no big deal. If he's at a festival like at Rockfest or at Blue Ridge, which I think he's going to be at both in 2021, if I get a chance to see him, am I going to go see his set? Yeah, unless like Rise Against is playing at the same time. But also another way to look at it too. If I listen to some of his music, or someone again puts on some of his music and says, hey man, do you want me to change it? I'm going to say, hell no, keep Hyro going. One thing that makes me kind of happy though is the fact that seeing other bands that are artists that have that more hip-hop rap infusion with them, but kind of do work well in the rock and metal crowd, taking a look at Cypress Hill, Wu-Tang Clan, and Tech Nine, yeah, I think Hyro is going to definitely be the next one on that list to be the consistent player in that, though he already pretty much is. But that one we're going to see, instead of big three, we're going to see the big four. Tech Nine, Wu-Tang Clan, Cypress Hill, and Hyro the Hero. So, neutral with a positive behind it. That's my verdict. That's it for me today, guys. Thank you for watching this video of me figuring out if I like Hyro the Hero or not. Again, check out all the other stuff at MSOD Rocks and the Corporation Podcast. Links in the description below. My name's Kevin. We're going to have the hat flip. Nope, but see ya.